Okay, so this is a story I've been actually holding on to for a while because we all know that the bathroom stories are just doing fantastic on this channel. I don't know why. When it comes to the all-gender bathroom, the school bathroom, or even the Walmart bathroom, you guys go insane for it. And sorry if my voice sounds a little deeper than usual. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I am a little sick. I did receive COVID the last following week, so that's probably why the uploads haven't been that fantastic. But as usual, this is a brand new story just for you guys, and obviously it is a bathroom story. So let's get straight into this. Hopefully you guys enjoy this video, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Seriously, I think only like 79% of you guys aren't subscribed, which is kind of a big L. And you know, if you guys just press the subscribe button, it'll mean a lot. Now let's get straight into this outstanding but yet kind of crazy story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy story. So like I said, the bathroom stories, they're doing fantastic. Honestly, I might as well start a series on this at this point, but today is a brand new one. And I'm not gonna lie, we took things to the limits, and by limits I guess I should say height limits, because today was in a bathroom, but not no ordinary bathroom, an airplane bathroom. Now many of you guys are probably asking, how did you do this? That is not possible. How in the world did you do it on an airplane bathroom? And honestly, I'm here to tell you guys, it's actually not that complicated. So back when I was in high school, I remember I took a French course, or like, you know, basically a language speaking course, because it is a university requirement down here in Canada. I don't know about anywhere else, which is funny because I never actually went to university or college. Wow, you guys really changed my life on that one. But basically, I'm not gonna lie, there was no like good course other than French to take, because you know that's the one French Canadians, or Canadians at least, learn throughout the years of like growing up. We would always have like some sort of French class. So I remember I took a French course, and I remember during this French course we basically like learned like the basics of French, blah blah blah, bonjour, ça va bien, you know, all that basic French stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the best at French, but it is what it is. And I remember in my French class there was this one chick who was actually like really good at French. Like, I'm not even joking, she was outstanding. She knew like every word. She knew all like the, you know, feminine and like masculine translations. Like, she was really good at French. Okay, like it was outstanding. And I remember, you know, I always wanted her to like help me out with French and stuff like that, and she would gladly help me out with doing a bunch of different things, and you know, basically help me do my homework, or in circumstances I watch her as she does my homework, because she was pretty attractive. And I remember one time as we were all doing homework in like our groups and stuff like that, our teacher walked in and said that we were doing a trip to France. Now this was obviously a surprise for us, because you know, whoa, a school's funding a big trip, but at the same time we did have to pay like a pretty big payment of that. But you know, that's not the point. The payment wasn't the issue. The issue was that, I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't really have any friends in that class. I didn't have any friends in that, well, let's just say classroom, other than the hot chick that helped me do my homework. So I remember what I decided to do was like basically like, you know, talk to her through Snapchat, and basically like, you know, kind of talked her up, because I didn't really want to be alone on this trip. And also, isn't like France or Paris like, you know, like the city of love or whatever? I'm not sure, whatever. I tried to connect that in some way, but you know, I guess not. Anyways, I remember as like, you know, I started packing my bags and stuff because my parents let me go on the trip. I was like kind of like planning on like, you know, how romantic it would be if me and her, you know, I don't know, did some cool stuff together, like a date somewhat. I don't know. I was kind of like a helpless romantic at that moment, and anything worked in my book. I don't know how to tell you guys. So I remember I was talking to her up the whole night before our flight, and you know, I was just, you know, talking to her, being nice to her, you know, making it seem like we were a thing. And I guess in her mindset we were also, which was like a big W. And I remember as like, you know, we were getting ready for the flights and stuff, and you know, I got to the bus stop, or the school that was gonna take the bus to the airport. She was like kind of like always like near me and stuff, to the point where like it seemed like to the class like we were gonna be a thing, so like everyone like, you know, screw off, which was really good in my opinion, which was really like beneficial. I wasn't alone. Yay, that's the first. So once we got on the bus, I remember she like kept like sitting beside me and like kind of like getting close to me, to the point where we actually started making out on the bus. And I'm not gonna lie, you know, when you're sitting at the back of the bus, you already know your boy's gonna be getting some. No, I'm kidding. That's not really the quick case here, but I mean, we didn't get some until later, but that's not the point. Basically, me and her were just making out on the back of the bus, doing our own thing, you know, just everyone's just doing their, you know, savas and practicing their intros for when they get to France, when me in reality I was just practicing my French kissing, I would guess. That's a good one. Okay. But yeah, basically, I remember when we got to the airport, me and her were like planning on sitting together and stuff like that. So we did. We sat beside each other and we got on the plane. And once we got on the flight, things got a little iffy. Now, I remember she kept like coming near me and stuff, and the plane was so boring. And I remember we tried watching a movie together, but the movie was like a romantic movie she wanted to watch. And let's just say, like, after a while, I'm not gonna lie, I guess she was just really in the mood. Like, I don't know how to tell if a chick's like horny per se, but you know, you can kind of just tell. Like, I don't think you have to feel them up just to understand that. At least not in my book. I don't know. I guess I've gotten too well known to this, which is kind of funny. But yeah, basically, she was like coming near me and stuff. And it got to the point where I was like, screw it. Like, let's do it. Like what's the worst that can happen? But obviously, I wasn't going to do it on the airport seats. In my mind, I was thinking about doing it there. But then she turns her head over to me and she was like, do you want to go to the bathroom, maybe? And when she said that, I was like, not a bad idea. I don't know what it was. When she mentioned the bathroom, I guess, you know, my eyes opened up with like a big idea, like popped on my head and saying like, you know, yeah, we could do in the airport bathroom. So obviously we did, but we didn't know how we were gonna get each other both back there. So I remember my plan was very, very different than hers. At least her idea was just to go back there and say, screw it, like who's gonna have what's the worst that can happen? But my idea was a bit more well engineered. What I would do is that I would go to the back where like the teachers were sitting and ask them about some like Frenchery stuff. And as I'm asking, distracting the, you know, teachers, I guess I should say, she would pretend to like talk to like the flight attending or the person that brings the cool food and stuff. And as we're both like distracted talking to people, instead of heading back to our seats, we just head straight to the back, to the bathroom. But obviously it wasn't going to be that easy. We also had to make sure that like, you know, there was no one in the actual bathroom and there was no lineup. So we had to wait for a perfect time. So I remember me and her were just sitting there waiting for the bathroom to be cleared. And by the time the bathroom was cleared, let's just say everyone was already sleeping. Like, I'm not even joking. Surprisingly, every single student was passed out on their airport seat. It was like the perfect moment. So I remember, you know, she like stood up and grabbed my hand. She's like, I'm not waiting anymore. And she took us back there and she literally took me to the bathroom. When I got to the bathroom with her, I'm not gonna lie, this bathroom was so tiny. Like, this thing was small. Like, there was no way anyone could do anything in here. But honestly, you know, when you gotta do it, you just do it. So I remember, you know, she started pushing me up against the wall, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, we ended up doing the Devil's Tango. Wow, that sounded really better with my COVID voice. That sounds sick. But anyways, yeah, so, you know, we did the Devil's Tango. And it went on for, I want to say, like 20 minutes. We tried to make it quick as possible, okay? And I remember, you know, as that was going on, I remember she, like, made a noise. And I guess someone decided to knock on the door and say, hello? Anyone in there? At that moment, I was, like, freaking out. And so was she, because she's like, what do we do without getting caught? So I remember I turned on the sink, acting like I was washing my hands. And basically, I was saying, oh, yeah, just give me a minute here. So obviously, now, like, the person that was knocking on the door knows someone was in there. And basically, I remember what I had to do was make him like distracted in some sort of way. So I remember yelling through the door, oh, like, I'm actually bleeding. Can you go get like my teacher? And obviously he was like, oh yeah, like I'll help out. Like, let me go get him. So he went back there and he went to go get my teacher. And basically I told her like right at that moment, like, you got to get the heck out of here. So I remember I literally grabbed her and I pushed her out of there. She literally went out and she like went back to her seat and stuff. And then the teacher asked like, oh, like, is, you know, Bubba back there? And she said, yeah, Bubba's back there. He's just, you know, bleeding, I think. And at this moment, I didn't know what I was gonna do because I was just in the bathroom with the water on, just washing my hands, praying that I would like bleed out of nowhere. And let's just say, obviously, I can't make myself bleed. I mean, I could, but that's no, I can't. Self-harm's not a good thing for me. No, thank you, especially in these circumstances. So I remember I'm not even joking. This was the funniest part, I think. He came to the bathroom. He's like, oh, just open the door. Like, I'll help you out. Like, I'm here to help. He comes into the bathroom. He sees me with just my hands soaking wet. And I'm like, oh, like, I washed it off and I think I'm gonna be okay. And then like, you know, I basically pretended that it was like cleaned off. And then the airport attendant came there as well. And she handed me a band-aid and I just put it on the most like random spot on my hand. And we went and sat down. Once we went and sat down, basically, like, she sat down beside me. She gave me a high five, or like, actually it was a fist bump. You know, we're gonna say it was a high five. And yeah, that's basically it. And long story short, I ended up doing it in the airport bathroom. Okay, so I pulled a flight attendant, and the way this ended up happening was the coolest thing ever, and I want to tell it to you guys. But obviously, before I do, make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It seriously means a lot when you guys do. And on top of that, make sure you guys join me live on Kick streaming, telling crazy stories just like this one. But other than that, let's get straight to this crazy story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy story. So this story takes place, actually, funny enough, the year I graduated. I remember it was the year 2019, and I just graduated. I was 18 years old and soon to be 19, funny enough. And I remember, since I was pretty young and I really did not know what to do after graduation, I thought it'd be a cool idea to take a trip to Vegas. But not just any normal trip. I wanted to go on a trip to Vegas like a king. So I remember I ended up basically getting all of my life savings, which was not the best idea, and basically got everything together and started booking flights to Vegas. Now, many of you guys are questioning, why would I want to go to Vegas out of all things? And the reason is because in the movies, as a Canadian, I see a lot that Vegas is the place of dreams, the place of, you know, where Elvis was playing, and basically all cool things happen in Vegas. And the best part is that I wouldn't have to say anything because what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So it's like a win-win scenario. So I remember I ended up telling my family that I was going to take a trip to Vegas, and they were okay with it. And I remember from there, I ended up actually booking my ticket online, and I ended up getting first class tickets. Now, first class is better than basic class tickets. You know what I mean? Like, there's food involved. It's really nice. There's even alcohol. Now, I wouldn't be able to drink it because obviously in Canada, drinking age is 19, and I was literally about to turn 19. But still, I just heard it was way more comfortable than normal class. So I ended up basically getting first class tickets, and I remember I decided that day I was gonna wear my nicest suit on the plane. My parents were wondering why I was wearing a suit, but to be honest, if I was gonna go first class, I want to make sure they know I am first class. I don't know. In a way, to be honest, I was watching a lot of Suits, and I kind of just fell in love with Suits at the time. So I decided to wear my suit. But going on from there, I remember as I got my suit and it was the day of my flight, I put on my suit and got it all niced up and dressed and ready. And as I was ready, I remember I ended up basically getting my luggage and ended up going to the plane. Now, this trip was only going to be for a weekend, but still, I wanted it to be the best weekend of my life. So I remember I ended up hopping on the plane, and as I hopped on the plane, out of nowhere, there was a lady that was kind of instructing, like telling people where to go, and I realized that she was a flight attendant. Now, this flight attendant, when I was walking onto the plane, she was staring at me and said, "Oh, welcome aboard." And I look at her and say, "Oh, thanks." And I ended up basically going in there. But then she looked behind me and saw that no one else was behind me. She was kind of questioning it and kind of curious. And then I remember as I was sitting down in my seat that I was assigned, she ended up walking up to me saying, excuse me? Yeah, what's going on? Is what I said. Where are your parents? My parents? Is what I said. She ended up looking very confused, and she's like, "Oh, my apologies. Are they still waiting to be on board?" No, it's just me on this flight. I don't have my parents with me, is what I said afterwards. And then she looked at me all questioning, and she's like, "Wait, so you booked first class by yourself?" "Yeah, I kind of did," is what I said. One thing I will say is that it's super weird how she asked where my parents were, but at the same time, I get it. At the time, I looked really, really young. So I remember I looked at her and said, "Oh, so I'm just planning this trip for myself. You know, decided to make it a work trip." "A work trip?" is what she said, all confused and really questioning who the hell I was and how was I able to afford first class and a nice Gucci suit. I don't know. She was really confused and trying to figure out what was going on, and I basically summed it down for her, and I made up kind of a lie saying, "Oh, I own a multi-billion-dollar company, and just thought I should take a trip to Vegas for tax write-offs." I remember the flight attendant looked at me really in questioning and said, "Can I take a look at your ID?" Yeah, sure." I ended up showing her my ID, and when she read that I was 19 years old, she was super confused. She was like, "You own a company at 19 years old?" "Yeah," is what I said. She ended up basically saying, "Well, that's very good then." And then afterwards ended up walking away. Now, I didn't know if she actually fell for it or not, but later on, what I started to realize was that she was being really weird around me. For example, every time she would come with like the snacks that they usually give out, she would always kind of wink at me and flirt at me in a really weird way. I don't know why this flight attendant was so on my case. I don't know why she was so interested in me all of a sudden. Maybe she was a gold digger? I have no idea. But then I remember after 2 hours onto my flight, I remember food was getting handed out to people in first class. And me, I ended up getting the same flight attendant passing me the food that I, you know, basically ordered, which was a mac and cheese because I love macaroni and cheese. And she looked at me saying, "Would you like anything else?" No, I'm good, thanks." And I started eating it. But as I was eating it, I remember she ended up grabbing a napkin and she said, "Oh, you got some on your face." And she ended up cleaning my face for me. Now, I didn't know if that was all first class people get that kind of treatment, but there's no way, right? So I remember from there, I felt kind of awkward and said, "Thanks, I could just do that." And I ended up wiping my own face. But then what ended up happening next, well, I guess you could say I was going demon mode. Because I remember what ended up happening was after I finished my meal, I want to say like almost half an hour later, my stomach kind of started hurting. I don't know why or what was in the mac and cheese, but my stomach started kind of gurgling, and it got to the point where I really had to go to the bathroom. So I basically ended up kind of getting up and rushing towards the back of the plane to go to the bathroom. But as I was heading there, I remember remember the flight attendant ended up seeing me, and she, I think, purposely bumped into me saying, "Oh, where are you going?" "I'm going to the bathroom," is what I said, kind of constipated. And I ended up running there and basically letting it all go in the bathroom. But as I was in the bathroom, I ended up just sitting on the toilet seat a bit longer. I think most people do this. They just sit in the toilet seat just because they can. Kind of that reassurance of, hey, you know, let it all go. But as I was sitting there, I remember I ended up going on my phone real quick, check the time, and then out of nowhere, once again, the door knocked. Now, I thought it was someone trying to use the bathroom, so I said, "Occupied," like, you know, a nice gentleman would. But then afterwards, the flight attendant just ended up walking in. I remember I was kind of panicked going, "Wait, what are you doing here?" And she looked at me saying, "Oh, I was just like thinking like, how are you doing? Do you need anything?" "Do I need anything? I'm in the bathroom," is what I said to her, kind of just awkwarded out. But then she didn't really ask any more questions and kind of just ended up, you know, pushing me up against the wall and started kissing me. Now, at this point, I was super weirded out. I'm like, wait a second. Wait, what? This flight attendant likes me? And then, yeah, what can I say? We basically ended up doing the devil's tango because I basically said screw it and decided to go for it. Honestly, you only live once, and at that point, our plane was basically hovering over Vegas, so what can I say? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Now, I've done it on a plane, but I've also done it at the airport bathroom. I guess for some reason, I just can't keep it in my pants. But if you guys don't want this to happen to you, like and subscribe, because what is going on, you guys? My name is Bubba, and welcome back to an embarrassing story. So today's story all takes place back when I was in high school, and funny enough, this was my last year of high school. I was in grade 12, and I remember in grade 12, there's just one thing that my social studies class ended up doing since we learned all about history, and that was we ended up traveling. Yes, my school actually had enough funds to get a bunch of students to travel across the world. It was actually kind of crazy because we ended up going to France, but I remember when my teacher announced this in front of the class, she said it in the most funniest way possible. She said, "Well, students, you guys all have been amazing to me, and I've decided we're all going to France." She said it in a way as if she was taking all the credit, but honestly, that's not the point of the story. The main thing is that what I ended up doing on the way there was insane. Because I remember the day the trip was announced, me and this girl that was in the class, we actually had a thing going on. I'm not going to say we were dating because I didn't do a lot of that in high school. I mostly just hang out with girls just to do the devil's tango. But one thing I will say is that me and this girl, we really had a click, I would say. And me and her, I remember what ended up happening was super weird because the night of the trip being announced, me and her, we just kept talking over Snapchat and saying how romantic it would be to do it in France. And me and her, we just kept talking about all the things we were going to do together. Honestly, it was kind of weird because we did it all over Snapchat, and it's not like we haven't done the devil's tango before, but you know, I guess she was just really hyping it up because it was one of her fantasies or something. And I'm not gonna lie to you, this girl, she always took things really risky where she would want to do it no matter what. So, I mean, in a way, when we were talking that night, things got really spicy because she would always say things like, "Oh my goodness, like we could literally do it in France. It would be so romantic. Oh my goodness, Bubba, we have to do it." I always said, sure, why not? Because I'm not gonna say no to doing the devil's tango. But I think what ended up happening next was actually super weird because I remember 2 days went by and ended up becoming a Monday. And Monday was our flights because, well, not only are airplane flights cheaper on Monday, but also if you're bringing 30 students to a whole new country, it just makes the most sense price wise. And I remember before we actually ended up going on the trip and we all met up at the school, she ended up looking at me saying, "Oh, Bubba, do you want to be my partner for the trip?" "Yeah, sure, why not? I don't see how that's a bad idea. I mean, we're gonna be together a lot anyways throughout the trip." And basically one thing led to another. She ended up telling me how she wanted to sneak into my hotel room at night and do the devil's tango. Let's just say this girl had this entire thing planned out where she just wanted to do it with me no matter what. And obviously, she got really excited just thinking about it. And I am not joking when I say this. Even on the bus ride there to the airport, that's all she would talk about. This girl just kept talking about doing it with me everywhere we went. It got to the point where even some of the boys that I was going on the trip with found this really funny and odd. But to be fair, they knew I was going to do it anyways because I was just that playa. And I gotta say, this is where the story gets really just freaky because I remember once we got to the airport, we ended up putting our bags through and everything, and I remember she ends up walking up to me saying, "Bubba, I'm just wondering, do you have a rubber?" Yeah, I do. It's in my wallet. Why? Do you need it right now?" I don't know. Are we doing it right now?" I ended up laughing and chuckling, being like, "Nah, we're not. I'm just joking." And she's like, "Oh, okay, well, like, I was thinking, like, I'm kind of in the mood." I ended up explaining to her how we were literally about to go on a plane and how we should not be doing any of this right now, and let's just be mature just so we can go on the plane and fly over to France. She ended up saying sure, like, you know, whatever, and she ended up moving on. But what ends up happening next, I think she got a little desperate because I remember after we put our bag through the security and everything, there's a long wait. I remember our teacher walked up in front of all of us and ended up saying, "Okay, class, so there's gonna be a long wait. So we're gonna be waiting here for around 3 hours. So you guys can roam around the airport, but make sure to meet back at this gate at this time." Obviously, at this moment, I want to explore the airport. I'm not gonna lie, I enjoy going to shops and gift shops and everything to see what newcomers see when they come to, well, the country I'm in. And I remember one thing led to another. This girl had different ideas that I was with, because she walked up to me and said, Baba, we have 3 whole hours. We could literally do it. Where are we gonna do it? We're at an airport. I have an idea. I remember she ended up grabbing my hand and she ended up asking me, Baba, you have your wallet with you, right? Yeah, of course. It has my IDs in it. Okay, here, just follow me then. And I remember me and her, we ended up actually going all the way across the airport to like a remote area where no one was around. And there was bathrooms placed over there. And for some reason, this girl looked at me and said, Baba, we should go in there and do it. You want to do it in the bathroom at the airport? Yeah, why not? It'll be super fun. I don't know. To be honest, we're so far away from the gate and like, I kind of want to like check out the gift shops. Baba, it'll be quick. Well, I mean, if you are quick, I don't know. I think we should probably just start heading back. Baba, let's go. I remember she ended up pulling me into the bathroom and we went into the ladies' bathroom, and me and her, we ended up going to the bathroom stall. And yeah, one thing led to another. We did end up doing the Devil's Tango. It was kind of insane. And honestly, I will say this, it ended up being a decent time. But I remember out of nowhere, one thing led to another. When me and her were in the stall doing it, we ended up hearing someone who come into the bathroom. It was a lady and she looked like she was a pilot. And I remember as I'm looking through the slits of the bathroom stall, I see that she was just basically checking around the bathroom. I remember I started freaking out and I jumped onto the toilet so that she wouldn't see my legs under the stall. But then out of nowhere, she ended up looking on the stall and seeing a pair of high heels, which was the girl I was with. And she said, excuse me, is anyone in the bathroom? I remember the girl I was with ended up replying saying, yeah, just 1 minute. And then afterwards, I remember this lady ended up actually leaving the bathroom. I thought we were in the clear, and I remember I decided to basically get my clothes on as fast as I could and basically get out of there. But right as I stepped down and I walk out of the stall, instantly the lady that was in the suit ended up turning back into the bathroom and saw me and said, excuse me, what are you doing in the bathroom? I'm looking for my classmate, is what I said. Not knowing what was going on, this girl ended up coming out right behind me from the stall where me and her did it, and instantly this woman knew what was going on. She ended up basically grabbing both of us and she ended up putting us on the bench sitting down, and she asked for our IDs and everything. And let's just say we ended up getting in serious trouble because security ended up coming around and they were asking us like, what, flight are you on and everything. And I remember me and her, this girl, we ended up looking at each other and we're just trying to think of a way to get out of this. And I remember at that moment, I had a big brain idea. Because I remember I ended up looking up and I saw so many different flights on a TV screen that was at the airport. And I decided to say one of the random flights that were leaving very soon. And I said like some random flight that was going to like Halifax or something. And I told them this and they're like, oh, okay, well, you should be heading to your gate soon. Just don't do any of this thing again. You understand? Yeah, understood. We won't do it again. And me and this girl, we ended up sprinting towards the gate where the trip to Halifax was. But right before we got there, we ended up doing a quick turn where the security couldn't see us anymore. And we ended up going back to our proper gate. To be honest, me and her, we ended up just hiding beside our teacher and kind of like hiding behind the benches so that the security wouldn't recognize us anymore. And I gotta say, it was one of the most craziest things knowing that we didn't get caught. But I will say this, it's probably not the smartest idea to do it in a place where there's a ton of security, like an airport. But honestly, fall for more embarrassing stories.